Hello YouTube, Dave here again. I'm back with another pickups video. I like to do this once or twice a month, depending on if I get anything good in. It seems like a lot of times I'll record a pickup video, and then the next day something really cool will come in. This is actually the second attempt at this particular video. I recorded one, and my camera's been kind of wonky lately. There's actually a couple of videos that I went through and recorded and ended up losing, or the video file just wasn't formatted properly, or there's a corruption issue or something happened, and it wouldn't open up on my laptop at all. The file itself was bad on the actual camera, so I'm not quite sure what's going on there. I did take out the battery fully and put it back in, and hopefully it'll work better. But anyway, so I've got a few things here that I picked up in the last few weeks. The first thing that I picked up was actually on an unintentional trip to Cape and Cowl Comics in Lower Sackville, Nova Scotia. I recently actually started a part-time job. It's only, about 6 hours a week. It's not, a very involved job or anything, but it's enjoyable. We went to go scout out the location, and as it turns out, not only did we have the location way off, but we also ended up not being able to get out just because of traffic. So we were trying to cut across the lane to turn left, and it just wasn't working. So eventually we just said screw it and turned right. And as it turns out, that led to a highway, which took us all the way to Lower Sackville. So we went to Cape and Cowl, and I wasn't expecting to get much there, but they had old issues of Dragon Magazine and Dungeon Magazine there for $2.50 each. And all of the Dungeon ones that they had were issues that I already owned, but they had a bunch of Dragon ones that were right around the time, shortly before I actually started collecting myself. So I picked up 4 of those, and we'll start off with this one here. So this is an issue that came out right around the same time as the Deities and Demigods book for 3rd edition D&D. This was the April 2002 edition, and this was Dragon number 294. So it was all about sort of like the gods, and you had some like real world stuff in here. Just some really cool relics, artifacts, just some really cool stuff. And I love going through these old issues. And like I said, it was right before, I definitely don't want to try to get like a complete collection, because that would be maddening. But there were some decent issues that came out right before I started buying them. And I finally got a chance to go back and get them. And if we ever go back again, hopefully they'll have some other ones there that I might pick up as well. But this was the first one that I got. The second one was issue number 295, and this is all about like Stronghold. So the Stronghold Builder's Guide was the featured release that came out around this time, and it had things like traps, actually completed strongholds, so you can sort of see what the final results look like. And again, just going through these issues, it actually has like a fold-out map as well that hasn't been removed, and looks like it will come out alright. I'm not going to do it right now just in case, because sometimes this is like 17-year-old glue strip that's holding it down, so I don't want it to rip or tear, so I might eventually take them out. But like I said, just going through some of these older issues is kind of like just walking back in time a little bit, and just remembering how much I looked forward to getting these every month. Even when I was sort of on the fence about Dragon Magazine, I still enjoyed getting each issue monthly and looking through it. So really cool to have this one as well. Like I said, that was issue 295. Now I already have issue 296. A friend of mine had a subscription, and he ended up getting a second copy from a relative, I think. So he ended up giving me one of those. So I didn't need to get 296, although they had it there, but I did pick up 297, so this is like the Epic Level edition. This was around the time that the Epic Level Handbook was coming out. So you had like Epic Prestige classes, Epic Spells, things of that nature, and I'll probably talk about the Epic Level Handbook a little bit at some point in the future. I already sort of mentioned that it was a somewhat disappointing book, but anyway, still cool to see these issues. And to get an advertisement on the back for War of the Spider Queen, the 6 books and series there, with the storyline sort of conceived of by R.A. Salvatore. Awesome book series, but cool to have that one as well. And then finally, the one that made me want to buy back issues in the first place was the issue that came out right the month before I discovered Dragon Magazine and started collecting it regularly. So I started with issue number 299, which is all about paladins, stuff like that. But issue 298 was all about the Drow and the Dark Elves. So Drow are some of my favorite, creatures to use in D&D period. I've always just really liked their society, their, traditions, and I always thought they've made great sort of, antagonists, and some of them even some great anti-heroes. So this was an issue that, a lot of people were talking about, but it came out right before I started collecting, and this was even sort of before I was regularly buying them from a local game store, and I was getting these actually from of all places, it was a tobacco store in the County Fair Mall in New Minas, Nova Scotia that was temporarily stocking these. So this came out right before then, and by the time I started getting them regularly from my local game store, this issue was long gone. This was one of the more coveted issues of the time, and it is finally in my possession. It even comes with this really cool chainmail map, which has some stuff from set 4, including, I think, some figs that actually never got released. But anyway, really, really grateful to have that, because that was one that I've always felt like I was missing. And like I said, I don't want to go back and get them all, but I really felt like that was just sort of a void in my collection. So really cool to have that. And of course, it also has like the legendary Vault of the Drow as well. So just some really, really cool stuff. And again, just going through and reading like the mail section with like people sending in letters, back when people sent letters, just really, really awesome stuff. So up next was actually a product that I ordered from DM's Guild, and I'd mentioned this in a previous video when I sort of did a spotlight showing it, but I finally got it, and like I said, I did try to record this video once before, and the magazines in this book were the only things that I had at the time. There are a couple of other things that I've added to the collection that, if you follow my Facebook page, you probably already know, and it's something that a lot of you probably wouldn't suspect I would ever pick up. But anyway, let's not foreshadow too much. But this is the print-on-demand Book of Artifacts for 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. So I love artifacts. I think that they're great, and I think that they tend to have this sort of stigma attached to them, of them being like, game breakers, stuff like that. And what's interesting is that this book actually does sort of allude to that. It actually sort of does like a Q&A about artifacts. And so like the statements are, artifacts are too powerful for a campaign, and then their response is, not true. Artifact does not mean immensely powerful. The Herald of Mei Lung is useful, but it can't blast anyone to ashes the way that an Axe of the Emperors might. So it just sort of gives like some answers there. This book, one of the reviews that I read said that it was like not completely entirely, but very, very heavily Forgotten Realms focused. And there are some artifacts that are Forgotten Realms oriented, but there's also like the Hand and Eye of Vecna, the Sword of Cass, the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords, there's the Rod of 7 Parts. So there's a lot of really cool artifacts in here, and there's some from all over. So there are some from like Karatura and stuff like that, but there's just, again, some really, really cool stuff in here. Like there we got the Axe of the Dwarvish Lords. I'm not going to go through and show absolutely everything that's in here, but there is also some nice artwork sort of interspersed throughout, which I think is really, really cool. And if we get to the Hand and Eye of Vecna, there we got Baba Yaga's hut. Oh, that's sort of terrifying. But again, just some really, really cool stuff in here. There's also guidelines for, creating artifacts, and also for just creating basic magic items are in here as well, which I think is really useful. And then, of course, we got like the good old Hand and Eye of Vecna. So I think that this is overall a really useful book. I think there's some really cool stuff in here. And, people complained also that the artifacts had a lot of random abilities, but really, with the exception of like 3rd and 4th edition, and I'm not entirely sure about 5th edition. I think 5th edition might be all set as well. But back in the day, artifacts just had random abilities associated with them. They would have some ones that were sort of always constant, but they would also just have like these random abilities, and that was a big part of artifacts back then. But this is also just really great for, again, creating magic items, stuff like that. So a lot of useful information in this book. Really, really cool to have. Really glad that I have it, and it's not just a Forgotten Realms book for the individual who sort of wrote that review. So again, it may just be because a lot of the Greyhawk ones don't specifically say Greyhawk, and one of the few ones that actually specifically state a setting that they're from does typically tend to be Forgotten Realms. But a lot of these, again, are, you know, artifacts from, you know, multiple settings. So really, really cool book. And if you're into, like, you know, artifacts or AD&D and you want to introduce stuff like that, then this is a great book to have. All right, so we got two things left, and these are two things that I honestly didn't think I was ever going to add to the collection. So let's just go ahead and show them, and I'll talk about them here in a moment as to why I got them. So the first thing is the hardcover 5th edition book, The Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. In addition to that, I also picked up the maps and miscellany pack. So I got the map pack as well as the hardcover book. So I guess, you know, when it came to the announcement of it last year, I was very critical of the fact that they were releasing a Magic the Gathering setting when there were very, very iconic D&D settings that would be better suited for their first campaign setting release. And I still feel that way. I still feel that overall, having the first real campaign setting book to come out not be a D&D related one, you know, is something that, you know, is always going to bother me. But some time has passed, you know, I've had time to sort of have, I guess, more of a level or clear head towards it. And so there's a couple mitigating factors that led to me picking this up. Number one, and I'm going to be completely and totally honest about it, it's because I did finally go back and watch the Acquisitions Incorporated videos where they were in Ravnica. And I really enjoyed the videos, especially the ones with Xavier Woods, you know, from the New Day. I thought that they were just really, really great. And it's not that that alone is what made me want to buy these books, but it sort of softened my stance on them, and it's like, well, at least let's give it a chance. Another thing is, I was just sort of thinking about it, and I think it's almost going to be a test of my ability to genuinely review things that I may not necessarily be personally interested in to begin with. So I think that if I can go through and look at this objectively and provide a balanced and objective view, I think it just sort of, I don't want to say lends credibility, because I think that my reviews have always been, you know, fair. But I think it just goes to show that I, you know, am capable of reviewing things and looking at them, you know, without too much personal bias. So I think that's something that I feel is kind of important that I actually attempt to do, and hopefully it'll come across well that way. And the third reason, well, the third and fourth reasons, I guess, are sort of tied together. So the third reason is, I have started a part-time job. Like I said, it's only a handful of hours a week, so it's not something that's going to make me a ton of money, but it's something that does help out. And I got my first paycheck, and again, it wasn't very much. But at the same time, I looked online on Chapter's website, and at the time, the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica hardcover was actually on sale for 40% off. So in Canada, this is a $65.95 book. So basically $66, and with 15% tax, it gets into the $70 price range pretty quickly. So that alone made me not want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. I wasn't going to spend $70+ on a book, you know, regardless of wanting to expand my horizons as a reviewer. I wasn't going to spend that kind of money. But to get it for under $40 was actually a pretty big thing. So I decided that, you know, I had the money in the account, the timing was right, so I said, you know, what the heck, and I pulled the trigger on it. So I got it for, it was around $38, and with the amount of money that I saved on it, I was able to put that into picking up the map pack. I had some points saved up at Chapters, which is like a, you know, the major Canadian bookstore chain. So I ended up being able to save a little bit on the cover price of this as well. But the map packs aren't necessarily that poorly priced to begin with, so I was okay even if I bought this at full price. I got like $5 knocked off of it. But to get it even at full price, I was okay with that for the map pack. But for the book itself, I ended up getting this for $38, taxes in, and I had it delivered free to a local Chapter store, so I didn't have to pay for shipping or have to worry about like not being home when the book arrived. So we've got these here, and so I'm going to take some time. We have a long weekend coming up. our daughter's away, so I'm going to spend some time this weekend reading through the book, and I will have my review for it out next week. Next week I am going to also have a video coming out for, or I might try to get to it tomorrow if I have the chance. But there was a Kickstarter that was made aware of to me by the creators, and it's a really, really cool Kickstarter for this like mega dungeon sort of thing. I did already record a video for that as well. That was the second one that got fully corrupted, so I'm going to try to get to that over the course of this weekend as well. But anyway, I'm going to take a look at those, and I'll have, like I said, my review for Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica out. By then. I've only really just sort of quickly flipped through it. I haven't actually sat down and read like anything on it yet. So it's sort of interesting to see how we go from there. And I will also have a separate video for opening this up. I'll probably have this video out before I get to this one, but that's just sort of the way it goes. So anyway, yeah, sort of interesting. I did a Facebook post for this, and the caption that I had was, "Someone might want to check the thermostat in hell." And it's not that I never said I would never get it. I just said that like the timing and the price had to be right, and that's sort of what happened here. So I'll give this an honest look, and you know, hopefully I'll be pleasantly surprised. I don't think that by any means this is going to be a bad or poorly written book. So I think that it's going to be well written. I think there's going to be some interesting things in there. We'll see if I want to actually use this book going forward after reading it. We'll sort of see how that goes. So anyway, so those are my most recent pickups. We're getting into the end of April 2019. So let me know in the comments below, is there any cool stuff that you guys have picked up in the last little while? I always like hearing those. And let me know what your thoughts are on the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. I will not be getting the dice set, and that's an absolute not going to happen unless it's being sold at like $15. Because in Canada, in Nova Scotia, that is going to be like $40+ for a set of dice, so that's not happening. But anyway, let me know what you guys think of Guildmaster's Guide. Do you think I'll find some things to enjoy out of it? And yeah, just let me know what your thoughts are. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time. Take care.